Hi everybody and welcome to the latest Gully's Tactical Analysis video. Another transfer window special here on the Wolves Fancast YouTube channel. Now we're looking at the more attacking parts of the pitch this time round and contextualising why I'm talking about wide midfielders. I think I'm looking at it from the perspective that in the 4-4-2 system, which we played under Julian Lopetegui, was the best version of his Wolves at this point. I think it's important to understand Matheus Cunha's role within the team, and contrary to whatever beliefs Wolves have at the moment, I don't think he's a number 9, so he needs a partner. So those wider forwards, I think, need to be more midfield players probably than out-and-out wingers. And so I've selected a few players here we can look at to fit into those wider spaces, either on the right or on the left. And really kind of contextualising further what the problem we've had, I think, as well, is the sheer lack of chance creation, basically, at Wolves. This highlights who has kind of played in those positions last season, like some Neto, Sarabia, Pedence, Guedes, Traore, Hwang, and Nunes. And looking at shot creating actions as a real metric that has led to this, some of the work I've done here. So that the 2 offensive actions directly leading to a shot, such as passes, take-ons, and drawing fouls. A single player can receive credit for multiple actions, and shot taking can also receive credit. So, without further ado, we'll get into the first option that I wanted to bring to the table. And slightly frustrated that Tifo actually mentioned this guy in a sensible transfers video for Borussia Dortmund. So it kind of shows the calibre of player that he is. And that's Lazar Samardzic. He's a German-born Serbian international who plays for Udinese. Tends to play in a midfield 3, but kind of to the right of that. He's heavily left-footed, so tends to work from wider place positions and come inside, which is kind of what I'm looking for from a right-sided player at Wolves, not an out-and-out winger, like I mentioned. And he's just an exceptionally technically gifted footballer, very direct, likes to shoot at goal plenty, and also really quite press resistant. He's tall, he's well built for Premier League football, and I just think he's capable of playing at a higher level than he currently is. Maybe in the offing a bit of a bigger move for him, but I think he's an option and someone we can look to try and do a deal with Udinese on. He's only 21, I think, at the moment, so young as well, with potential to grow. Not the best off the ball, and maybe some work could be done there, but a really good option if you look at his metrics from a attacking perspective. Another player going down the Portuguese route, a familiar market for us, is Andre Horta. You may remember him for scoring the first goal against us for Braga in the Europa League. But a really interesting player. Had a spell out in the MLS, which is kind of a strange move, I think. But he tends to play as a slightly deeper midfielder for Braga, which reflects with his lack of kind of prolific goal scoring. But when you look at his build-up play, his ability on the ball, he's very nimble, press resistant, and again, really heavily involved in the attacking phase, and someone with really good technique. Could be an easier deal to do given the links that we have with the Portuguese market, like I say. But I think despite being more of a central midfielder for his club currently, I think he can operate in those wider spaces and give us something a little bit more than maybe someone like Sarabia. He's able to take people on, a bit more mobile and get involved in play higher up the pitch. Third option, data-wise, not the most impressive, but I think Jack Harrison is a really interesting player, given that he's actually gone down a division. Now, slight caveat that he actually signed a new contract with Leeds not too long ago, but whether that means he's more available with a release clause in his contract, for example, not too sure. But I just think the real standout for me here is the fact that he's produced heavily at Premier League level over the past 3 seasons. 37 goals and assists over the past three seasons. The only player we have that can come anywhere near that is Pedence. He's contributed 21, and that's in all competitions, as opposed to just the Premier League. He clearly benefited from the Bielsa ways, and he's very, very well suited to a high-energy game. Can play off both sides as well, can use both feet. I think he's a really good player, and remains to be seen what happens to him, having gotten relegated with Leeds. But I think he's an option. Could be an expensive deal to do. Not quite sure where his future lies, but I think being an English player as well, he ticks that box. So we'll watch his space on Jack Harrison's future. Another English player who I wanted to bring to the table, and one who might be a little bit more of a difficult deal to do because of his stock and the way he played, especially in the Europa League this season for Sporting, is Marcus Edwards. Now, we know he's had a little bit of time building his game and developing in Portugal after moving on from Tottenham. Was touted as the English kind of Messi when he was there. But you can see with those metrics, he's so efficient with what he does when he gets on the ball around the penalty area. Pretty much non-existent out of possession based on these metrics, but what you see from him is that he makes good decisions around the penalty area. He's very good in tight spaces. The concern you might have is that because of playing in this 4-4-2, maybe he'll be involved in deeper areas of the pitch and might not be as impactful as a result. But he's really clever. He's able to get into good positions, and he's quite direct when he gets a chance. He's not the quickest for a wider kind of player, but really talented, and I think prime for a move as well. And as we know, we've done deals with Sporting in the recent past which might have seemed improbable. So who knows? Maybe we can take advantage of that relationship again. And final one, this one's probably slightly more improbable. I think Edin Žegrova, he's a Kosovan international who plays for Lille. Not played a massive amount for them, but when he has played, he's been really productive. Again, interesting player, left-footed off the right wing, really direct. He is a nutmeg merchant if you watch any of his compilations, and really direct. But given he played slightly less this season, I think he's likely to have probably a bit more involvement at Lille and needs another season maybe in the French league to kind of develop his game before moving on to another club, perhaps. But really interesting player, one to keep an eye out on for maybe the next 6 months or so, or bring him in maybe a bit of a lower price at the moment before his stock rises, and see what he can do within the Premier League environment. I'll include comps to all these players on the description so you can have a look at them in more detail. But again, I think it's a real big problem. Before we decide we need to bring a striker in, I think we need to have a look at chance creation first and foremost. So hopefully these guys might be on the radar, and we can have a look at bringing them in and seeing what kind of impact they can have for Wolves.